NASCAR makes a triumphant return to Rockingham. Matt from Breakhard on YouTube drops in. And up next, it's Talladega. That's what we've got for you here on Fast Talk.
Fast Talk is presented by Toyota. For the latest Toyota Gazoo racing information, visit tgrna.com. And by Sunoco. From NASCAR to your car, Sunoco Fuel helps your car reach peak performance. Now, here's the host of Fast Talk, Doug Rice.
Thanks a lot for joining us. Also, NASCAR has announced their latest round of nominees for the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and there are some new names on the ballot. We'll chat about those here in just a few minutes, plus some familiar names that are hoping that maybe this time their number comes up for the Hall of Fame. Hi, I'm Doug Rice, joined in studio by Alexis Erickson and via remote and the miracle of Zoom technology, Brad Gilley down in Texas. Before we jump in and talk about Rockingham and Hall of Fames and all of these things, Alexis, you have a 3.5-year-old son named Ollie. How was Ollie's Easter?
Oh, it was fantastic. He got visits by multiple Easter bunnies, some at Grandma and Grandpa's, which at 3.5 now he's starting to question, well, how did the Easter bunny know to go to Grandma and Grandpa's? So I had to kind of figure that one out on the fly, which was fun. But we did that. We opened our pool a few weeks ago, and we decided to heat it up this weekend. So we pretty much spent most of the time in the pool, and he's just learning how to swim. And so it was a really cool weekend.
Love that. Brad Gilley, I know you're a dad. Trying to explain the eccentricities of how the Easter bunny does things can be a little challenging.
Yeah, it's interesting because if you start out going to church on Easter and learn about the resurrection and different things like that, wait, how does a rabbit deliver eggs that are painted and all of those other things? And if you get the chocolate bunny, what do you eat first? I would say the ears, right?
Yeah. So, what does that have to do with Golgotha and the Easter story? Absolutely nothing, but somehow or another it's endured for a long time. Glad you guys had a nice Easter. Mine pattern mostly like it was, way too much ham. And were eggs too expensive to color this year, Alexis?
To be honest with you, we didn't dye any, not because of the cost of eggs, just because that's just something that we haven't done yet. I mean, he's just not into that. So he likes to hunt for them. So we did a lot of Easter egg hunting, but we didn't do much dyeing.
So Brad, at your house, assuming that you guys did real Easter eggs and dyed them, which
well, being that the youngest overall in the house is 22, we did not do any eggs or anything like that. There was going to be like a
no,
neighborhood.
I was talking about in past.
Oh, in the past, absolutely.
What did you do with those eggs after Easter Day? Did they turn into egg salad? Or
all right, so you have egg salad, yes. You have just boiled eggs, yes, and then you have the best, deviled eggs. I mean, that's, you can't go wrong with that. So, yeah, well, as soon as you started talking about dyeing eggs, I thought, boy, there was a missed opportunity yesterday that we didn't have any boiled eggs to make deviled eggs with.
Well, hopefully everybody had a wonderful Easter and you're ready to tackle it. NASCAR took Easter Sunday off. Frankly, I'm very glad they did. I was at Bristol for the couple of races they had up there on Easter Sunday, and it didn't feel right. Love Bristol, love the people there, but I'm glad that they gave the entire body of workers that Sunday off. But they did race in Rockingham, Alexis, and this all happened very quickly. We heard a little whispers, hey, we're going back to Rockingham. The next thing you know, there's an ARCA, there's a truck race, and there's an Xfinity race. Without getting into the details of the actual races, how do you grade out the return to the Rock?
I would say that it was a very successful return. I mean, it seemed like they had great crowds all weekend. Now, granted, I think it holds like maybe 20,000 people, so you're not talking about the same level of crowds as, say, you would ask to come to Bristol, or we have asked to come to Bristol on Easter weekend in the past. But the folks that came were treated to great weather. The facility, I thought, I was not there, but I thought from television the facility looked great. I thought that the racing that was provided on that new pavement from the trucks and ARCA and Xfinity Series cars, was it entertaining. So I think all around it was a really great event weekend for Rockingham's return.
Brad, in a world driven by emojis, do you give the return to the Rock a thumbs up?
Yeah, this was a win all the way around for everything that Alexis just said. Look, what I'm a big fan of is the impact on the community. Look, the racetrack has nothing to do with it. The racing was pretty cool, though, because we did have carnage, chaos, and violence, which I'm a big fan of. And we had drama as well, including a disqualification. But for Rockingham, for Richmond County, North Carolina, for the people of that area, there was an energy, there was a vibe that everyone bought all in, the entire community, and so many different things they did right, from all of the things that were happening in town to the things that were happening in the racetrack to the fact that you could have hopped on an Amtrak train in Raleigh, North Carolina and made a train ride down to not have to drive yourself and avoid traffic, and all of those great things that went on with it. This, to me, was a success in every single way possible.
Glad to hear you say that. Guys, I found it interesting the way that they played the return to the Rock. North Wilkesboro went all in on history. They cashed in all the chips. They had the old cars. Darrell Waltrip and Richard Petty are up there. Everybody that ever raced at that place. Now, granted, this was Xfinity and trucks, not the Cup Series. But I felt like Rockingham took a much more laissez-faire type approach, Alexis, and just sort of said, hey, we're racing, and opened the doors and let it go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, for all the reasons that Brad said, too, just the event itself, I think, what was it, 21 years since the Xfinity Series has run there? How many years since they've had an event there at all? Like 15?
13 and 14.
13 and 14, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they, relatively recently have had racing there, so I think it's still in people's subconscious what an event there was like. And when they were able to come back and see these racers compete, and you had Casey Kane come back too, who in his time when he was running full time in the Cup Series, he was a huge fan favorite. I think that probably produced some people with nostalgia of when he used to race wanting to go. You're right, there wasn't a whole lot of theme to it. But I think it didn't need it either. I think obviously you can see from what transpired that they didn't need all that. They just said, hey, we're having a race, come see it. And people did.
I was actually kind of glad that they didn't go down that road. And, Brad, I knew it was a home run Friday when I tuned in to watch some of the truck race. And the grandstands looked about 80% full for Friday. And then Saturday, I don't know that you could have shoehorned anybody else in there.
Yeah, so think about this. A Friday afternoon, Rockingham doesn't have lights. This wasn't an 8:30 start time, so everyone could leave work and get there on time. Granted, it was Good Friday, but not everyone gets the Good Friday holiday off. So to be able to get that many people down there to Rockingham, North Carolina, and look, I think it's a beautiful part of our country and all of that. It's just not the most well-populated area, if you will, but to be able to get that many people down there on a Friday night for Truck Series racing, it was really cool. And again, this goes into the buy-in of the community. It wasn't just Rockingham Speedway that helped make that happen. It was Rockingham. It was Richmond County. It was everyone in that area who had a passion for bringing NASCAR racing back.
It's funny that you mentioned that they don't have lights. I was a little tiny bit worried on Friday night that with all the things that were happening in that race that they weren't going to be able to get to the conclusion, but I was so glad that they did.
Speaking of the actual Xfinity race, which in real time was won by Jesse Love, whose car was hooked up and he just drove away from the field on the last restart. Well, he got DQ'd. They didn't like the way the truck and trailing arms were hooked up and cited some different rule violations. So he was DQ'd, and Sammy Smith was declared the winner of the return at Rockingham as he won the North Carolina Education Lottery 250. Brad, you know what me? I love irony. Isn't it ironic, don't you think, that Sammy Smith was declared the winner, and this is the guy that got a 50-point penalty at Martinsville for trying to put another competitor in the cheap seats?
Yeah, it is. And that wasn't lost on me when I heard or saw on social media that Jesse Love was disqualified. It was Sammy Smith. Isn't it crazy how your world can turn around in the sport literally just like that? And by thousands of an inch, right? I mean, that's how much of a difference that one made for him.
Kind of interesting. Sammy Smith he inherits the win. Good on him. You got to be there to take advantage.
He was the first legal car.
He was, yeah. And he got a little bit bumped up out of the way and afterwards, said, well, that was just good hard racing, which is what he should say.
Yes.
After something like that and after you look at things that have transpired recently. But yeah, you're right. I mean, luck in this sport can turn on a dime, and it certainly did for him.
Here's a little footnote, though. This is one of the reasons that Vegas, meaning the bookmakers, the gamblers, have not embraced NASCAR as well as they have other sports. Yes, you can bet on it because of things like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
In sports, if you're there in person at the sports book and Green Bay kicks a last-second field goal and you win, as soon as the score is posted, you can walk up, hand in your ticket, get your money. In racing, there's like a 24-hour cool-down period, and that hurts because gamblers are degenerates at heart, and they want that money, and this hurts it.
Yeah, I mean, you see those results come out, and when the race is over, you see the results at the top. It says unofficial for a reason, and you're right. It can be several hours later where you see. I mean, it used to be could be days, and now we're getting to the point where we're lucky enough that it's only a couple hours after the checkered flag, but it used to be even longer than that.
But that is something that the Vegas bookmakers don't like.
Yeah.
They want those results on the money, and people don't want to have to wait to cash in. Brad thought the racing was pretty compelling, especially on Saturday. 14 cautions, and but it didn't feel like an out-of-control wreck-fest Martinsville type race.
No. A lot of the later cautions had to do with fuel mileage and running out. But that's one thing, the racing itself. So heading into the Rockingham weekend, all of the things were perfect. A sold-out crowd for Saturday, great community involvement, everything that they've done at the racetrack, and we get to go back and all of that. But there was always that one concern, the unknown. A couple of years ago, Rockingham was repaved. What we loved about Rockingham back in the early 2000s when we still raced there is there was so much tire degradation and lap time drop-off that if someone got on the track with a new set of tires during green flag stops, they would fly past them. And I mean, more so than I think we see on any other track. But with this one being repaved, people were worried about, we're going to be stuck one groove on the bottom. It was anything but. They were racing all around Rockingham like they used to back when NASCAR was racing there before.
And Brad, I know I've heard you articulate this, and Alexis and I were talking about it, wrapping up our conversation about Rockingham. I don't think there's any need right now for everybody to say, they got to get a cup race. This was really good. Let this work, and maybe this becomes their place in the NASCAR schedule.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I think, there's a bunch of factors to that. Number one, it worked out well falling on the weekend that it fell on. And for the teams that didn't get the off weekend, so to speak, because they were racing truck, ARCA, Xfinity, they could drive pretty much. They slept in their beds, those kinds of things. So it's nice to have them close by on the quote unquote cup off weekend. And also, the cup cars are not going to race like that. I don't think, obviously you never know until you get the cars on the racetrack, but I do not think that the current state of the Cup car is going to put on the same type of show we saw from the Xfinity cars.
Yeah, I enjoyed a truck Xfinity weekend on Easter weekend where we all got to be home on Easter Sunday. And do I want to see this happen again? Yeah, I think they knocked it out of the park, and I think they're deserving of getting back on the schedule. But to your point, Doug, Alexis, I'm not even considering thinking about a Cup Series return to Rockingham. We already have 2 event weekends at Darlington, literally down the road. We've got a couple major event weekends, including a major and one of the great playoffs races at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We don't need more Cup racing there, but if we can find a little niche for Rockingham on an Easter weekend with the Truck and Xfinity Friday and Saturday race, that might be a perfect little thing on a Cup Series off weekend.
Yep. I think that's a winning recipe for those folks. Here's your Toyota report, your performance report from Rockingham for the Xfinity teams. Taylor Gray was 5th. Dean Thompson, 11th. 12th went to Brandon Jones. William Sawalitz was 25th. And Justin Bonsignor was 38th. And that is our Toyota performance report. For the latest Toyota racing information, visit Toyota Gazoo Racing Information. It's at tgrna.com.
This is the sound of a Toyota Cup car. And this is the sound of a Toyota Top Fuel dragster. This is the sound of a Toyota GR Supra deep in a drift. And this is the sound of Denny Hamlin celebrating after stuffing the competition. You in? Get up to speed at tgrna.com. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, LLC.
We work hard to keep our cars looking great on the outside, but engine components need our attention too. That's where you can trust Z-Max Micro Lubricant to disperse carbon buildup in your engine and fuel system to keep your car or truck running at its peak. By soaking into the metal of your engine, Z-Max Micro Lubricant improves performance, extends engine life, and reduces emissions. Trust the many customers who've said, "Thanks for saving my engine." Find out more at zmax.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Here's Christopher Bell.
My Toyota Camry TRD race car isn't cheap to build and prepare. I have a pit crew that maintains and fixes my equipment. I have a spotter high above the track watching my back, talking me through turns and potential dangers on the track. I physically train to handle the stress of driving. And I have software helping my crew chief and engineers make the right strategy calls. And with all this, I never take my eyes off the road, and neither should you. One distraction can change everything in one instant.
Welcome back to Fast Talk. I'm Doug Rice, joined by Brad Gilly and Alexis Erickson. And the new names for the nominations for the NASCAR Hall of Fame have been released, and a lot of them have been ones that we've seen over and over again. There are 10 on the Modern Era ballot. There are 5 on the Pioneer ballot, and some Landmark Award nominations. And right now, I'm going to start with Brad. Brad, one of the, I guess maybe the most prominent name added is Kurt Busch for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Cup Series champion, more than 30 wins as a Cup Series driver, including the 2017 Daytona 500. And for Kurt Busch, talent-wise, his career is absolutely Hall of Fame. You can look at several different factors. Number one, a championship, and for me, that is that's like an automatic in when it comes to my personal criteria of what gets someone in. But here's the other thing: Kurt Busch made a difference to every single team in which he raced. He won the championship for Jack Roush. He went over to Team Penske and made a big difference there and really helped advancing that program. After he left Team Penske, kind of unceremoniously, he went over and drove for James Finch for a year. Nearly went to victory lane a couple of times. In fact, had that race at Sonoma with the top 3 finish where the track bar was broken in the back of his car as he's trying to turn left and right. Haas factory teams, he goes and wins the Daytona 500, or what was Stewart Haas Racing. Every place he's been, he got the first win for 2311 Racing and continues to contribute as a driver coach there in a team that put a car in the championship in their 4th year. Everything that Kurt Busch has done on track in his career has truly been Hall of Fame worthy.
Alexis, does he get in on the first year that he's eligible?
1,000%. I think he does. Yeah. I mean, for every reason that Brad just said, he is a pure talent. I mean, that family clearly producing great race car drivers with him and his brother Kyle. But when you think about what he's been able to do, like Brad said, in every organization that he's gone to, we hear so much these days about you needing to have the right chemistry. You got to be put with the right people and in the right places. And that's true to a certain extent. But he was able to be successful and to help every organization, no matter which one it was, in every scenario that he was in. And in my opinion, I think that shows pure talent more than anything else.
And also added to the list that's new that you'll have a chance to maybe get into the NASCAR Hall of Fame is Randy LaJoie, two-time NASCAR then Busch Series champion, and, of course, Corey LaJoie's dad. Good luck to you, Randy. Hope to see you put on that jacket and get into the Hall of Fame. The others on the modern era ballot, Neil Bonnet, Tim Brewer, Jeff Burton, Randy Dorton, Harry Gant, Harry Hyde, Jack Sprague, and, of course, LaJoie and Kurt Busch. Sadly, I know you can't have every name on there. Brad Gilly, there's no Jeff Hammond on this list yet.
Yeah, that again, I feel like the crew chief is very underserved in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and you have a lot of Hall of Famers in there already with Ray Evernham, with Maurice Petty, with Chad Knaus, and so on and so forth, the Wood brothers, I mean, among others. But Jeff Hammond won 43 races as a crew chief, won 2 championships as a crew chief. You can double the race wins, and you can add 4 more championships, what he did as a crew member at Junior Johnson and Associates. While his 2 titles came with Darrell Waltrip, he was there for Darrell's first title. He was there for Cale Yarborough's 3 titles, and all of those trips to victory lane. It's just the crew chief stats alone. Hall of Fame worthy, tremendously Hall of Fame worthy. I would love to see him get on the ballot, because I think all of his accomplishments absolutely deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame.
Now, there are 5 names on the Pioneer ballot. They are Jake Elder, 3-time champion; Ray Hedrick, won over 700 times in the Modified Series; Banjo Matthews, Larry Phillips, and Bob Wilburn. There are the Pioneer ballots, and they break these out away from the more contemporary drivers. I kind of like that. For the Landmark Award, Alvin Hawkins, NASCAR's first flagman; Lisa France Kennedy, Dr. Joseph Mattioli, who founded Pocono Raceway; Les Richter, longtime executive who oversaw competition; and a new name added and makes me smile a little bit, Humpy Wheeler, the past president and GM of right here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Alexis.
Revolutionized, in my opinion, what the promoter was, I think, in this sport. And you see so many people point back to the things that Humpy did to get fans and to get people excited about coming to Charlotte Motor Speedway and being a part of what they were doing here, their big pre-race shows and all the, the crazy circus type things that would come to the Speedway. I mean, probably Doug firsthand more than anybody. He was here when I started, maybe a year before he left, but you worked under him for several years.
Worked directly under him, and I guess the statute of limitations has run out on some things. But we were in a huge meeting, and I was just a peon in this meeting. I'm in the back, very back of the room, just honored to be there. And they are pitching the idea of racing under the lights to the R.J. Reynolds executives.
Right.
It was R.J. Reynolds that had to give the thumbs up, not NASCAR, because they were financing this whole thing.
This is for the Winston.
This is for the Winston All-Star race, one hot night. And they did the pitch, and you could tell that the R.J. Reynolds people were just giddy. They thought this was the greatest thing, lighting up a big track, super speedway, under the lights, fit their thing perfectly. They all leave. The rest of us are still in the room when they all leave, and Humpy says, "Now, you guys think we can actually do this?"
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but he took the gamble. They pulled it off, and the rest is history. Now racing under the lights is very routine, and people do it all the time. Brad, glad to see Humpy make this list. This is nice.
I am thrilled. The public things we know about Humpy Wheeler, from, having one of his buddies come from Florida or Georgia with the shark, and you had the whole Darrell versus Cale thing with Jaws,
right,
and all of that, to, look, there are great pictures in and around the Speedway. He's sticking his head inside of a lion's mouth and a lot of other fun things, and the thrill shows, like Alexis mentioned. There were a lot of other things about Humpy, too, that he did. Again, there was never a bad idea. You better have one, though. But he would walk up and down. It didn't matter if it was a Tuesday night Legends car race. It didn't matter if it was the start of a truck, Xfinity Cup race, or whatever. He would walk up and down the grid, shake every driver's hand. Thank you for being here. Wish them luck, whatever it might be. And just a lot of neat things. Humpy was an interesting guy, a big fan of boxing. He had the North Carolina Boxing Hall of Fame right there at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A big cyclist. He used to ride his bicycle, for exercise, like around. And when I say ride his bicycle, like he had a really nice, carbon road bike and all of those things. I mean, just so many different layers to Humpy beyond what we saw as the promoter. But his contribution to the sport influences people today and will for decades to come.
He always had a philosophical approach to things, too. And one of the things that he told us, he said, at any time in this sport, there can never be more than 5 bona fide superstars. He said, because he said, once you get above that number, then they're not superstars. They're just stars. So, Humpy, glad you made the ballot. Hope you get into the Hall of Fame really soon. So thanks a lot for that. We're going to talk quickly about Venturini Racing. They'll race till the end of the year. And then Matt from Breakard joins us next.
Learn how thousands of smart homeowners are investing about $1 to avoid expensive home repair bills. John, a former non-customer, said, "My air conditioner broke and I had to spend $1,900 to fix it." Jeff, a customer, wrote, "My air conditioner broke and I got a new one at no out-of-pocket cost." Mary, a former non-customer, wrote, "My heating system stopped running. I had to spend $3,000 to get a new one." Lisa, a customer, wrote, "My heater stopped working. I got it fixed at no out-of-pocket cost." For about $1 a day, you can have all the major appliances and systems in your home guaranteed fixed or replaced. Call now. If the lines are busy, please call back.
Call the Home Warranty Hotline now at 800-610-2650. 800-610-2650. 800-610-2650. That's 800-610-2650.
I'm Eric Jones, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
It's hard to believe in this day and age in the United States of America that children are hungry.
Our time on this planet is short. We have to give back to those in need.
Every child has a chance, no matter what obstacles they may encounter.
Never have we been taxed more as a society to help kids the way we are right now.
Speedway Children's Charities raises money through several different avenues. My favorite is the gala.
It's one of those can't-miss events for everybody who attends, and I've been able to raise and distribute over $60 million.
When you have 50 different organizations receiving grants from Speedway Children's Charities, that's far-reaching. And some people think, well, I don't have much money to give. I say $50 is a lot to give.
At Speedway Children's Charities,
our mission is simple. Help every child we can.
Because all children
deserve joy
and hope
and love. And if one child is still in need,
then there's still work to do.
We do not spend a lot of time on this particular show talking about the ARCA series, even though it's very entertaining. But this past weekend at Rockingham, it was made official that I guess the cornerstone organization and all of ARCA is being sold. And we're talking about Venturini Motorsports announced their sale this past Friday as they are being sold to Nitro Motorsports. And Alexis, for all of us here at PRN, that really strikes home because of Venturini and Wendy Venturini, who is the daughter of the owner and founder of that organization, has been a big part of our team. And I know she and everybody over there takes a lot of pride in what they've been able to accomplish.
Absolutely. You know, I didn't hear the news. I wasn't taking in, traditional news sources this weekend being the holiday weekend and all. I saw it in a personal post that Wendy posted on Facebook about her family, and everything that they have done in the ARCA Menard series selling after they made their press announcement this weekend. And they are the ARCA Menard series. I mean, there are other teams and racers that have raced in that series and continue to race in that series. But when you think about ARCA, you think about Venturini Motorsports and just the plethora of names and talent that they have had come through that organization and make it to, the heights of NASCAR. It is the family business. It has been forever. And this past weekend, even more so, they had the grandkids come out and work on the race team at Rockingham Speedway. So, obviously we love Wendy. I think this is a great thing for their family, something they've wanted to do. And I wish them luck.
Brad, you don't have to go far from here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. One, you can usually catch Wendy's dad and at the Parkway Diner on Mondays for whatever reason. They are usually there. But they have a beautiful facility. When we say family organization, I think sometimes in our minds we downsize it, but it's cutting edge 2 miles here from the Speedway.
It is a full-blown race shop. You can run a cup level program out of here, and that's the way that Venturini Motorsports operates. And, you know, for Bill Venturini and his wife, or Wendy's mother and father, they've been doing this for decades. I mean, they heck, I'm 54 years old. I think they've been involved in stock car racing, not just ARCA, but stock car racing the entire time I've been alive. And it's great. And Billy, Wendy's brother, has been running the team for many years now. They're basically a Toyota development program as well. And the number of drivers who have come through Venturini Motorsports in some form or fashion is literally a list of who's who in the NASCAR garage, and has been for many, many years. Wendy and I talked about this a couple of months ago, and this is not like a bittersweet thing. You know, this is not like a sad, this is a celebration of what Venturini Motorsports has done. I mean, you know, at one point, so many innovations, they had an all-female crew, the first team to ever do something like that, you know, for seasons. Wendy's mom's out there jumping over the wall, working at cars and all of these other things. So among the many things that they have done in stock car racing, they've contributed to every single corner of it. And this is a celebration of just a career that has so many memories, and a great way to run off into retirement with a smile on your face for all the accomplishments.
Yeah, this is not a sad, they're shutting down the deal and boarding up the windows. They're selling this, and Billy Venturini is going to stay on through next year. That's Billy Venturini Jr., I should say, kind of, as he is the general manager of that org. By the way, some of the folks that went through the Toyota Racing Development Program, that's been a huge part of what they do at Venturini: Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Alex Bowman, Jesse Love, Corey Heim, and Christian Eckes. Those are more new names. That's pretty good. So congratulations, 107 career wins at Venturini Motorsports. It'll stay that until the end of the year, until it transfers over to Nitro Motorsports. There's a lot of news to be found on the internet, especially on the YouTube side. Matt from Brake Card, who provides a lot of that, joins us after the break.
From fueling NASCAR champions on the track for over 20 years to innovating 94 octane, the highest octane on the market, performance is what Sunoco does. All Sunoco fuel at the pump meets the same top-tier standards as the fuel used in NASCAR. From the track to your tank, you can trust Sunoco to help your vehicle perform at its peak.
This is Kyle Petty for Echo Park Automotive. As you might imagine, I know a thing or two about cars, and I'm here to tell you about a whole new way to buy a car, truck, or SUV. Did you know that Echo Park Automotive has over 95,000 five-star reviews? On top of that, every car that Echo Park Automotive sells goes through a 190-point inspection to make sure that it looks and drives like new, so you leave happy. It's even in their name, Echo Park Automotive. Every car, happy owner. The official used car dealer of Speedway Motorsports.
I'm Austin Dillon, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Everything's bigger in Texas, including the racing action.
Now one car in the wall is Christopher Bell, hits it hard. Everybody else scrambles to avoid. Trouble at Texas, caution is out.
Turn number 2, it is Josh Berry. He gets sideways, slides up against the outside wall.
McDowell loses it, big time. The field coming right at him. McDowell tries to hold on to the race car. Everybody scrambles to get out of the way.
It's the Worth 400 from Texas Motor Speedway. Sunday, May 4th at 2:30 Eastern on PRN. Saturday, May 3rd.
Start your engine!
The NASCAR Xfinity Series heads to Texas Motor Speedway.
I love tap in turn 2. I love tap in turn 3. Custer doing all he can to take that number 1 spot away from Mayer. They draw even again in turn 1.
Ryan Sieg moving all over the racetrack, upside, downside, trying to block Justin Allgaier.
It's the Andy's Frozen Custard 300. Saturday, May 3rd at 1:30 Eastern on the Performance Racing Network.
in the ever-changing landscape of NASCAR media, if you haven't checked it out, Brad Gilley is the one that made me start watching YouTube several years ago for various reasons. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate you sending me down that rabbit hole.
You're welcome.
There is a lot of information out there, especially in the NASCAR racing universe. Some great places to check out. In the last couple of years, I have been dropping on this guy's site, Matt from Brake Hard. Matt, thanks a lot for joining us, making time with us to be here on Fast Talk today.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me, Doug. Always listen. I texted my friends yesterday. I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to Doug Rice tomorrow. And they're like, oh, iconic voice of NASCAR. So happy to be here.
They said old retired guy, but that's fine. That's fine. Matt, let's tackle something that's red hot right now. What's your take on what went on down at Rockingham?
Yeah, super excited that we were back in Rockingham. Obviously, sold out crowd, really good crowd for a Friday afternoon race for the Truck Series as well, on a Good Friday at that. And then you have an absolutely incredible race on Saturday with the Xfinity Series. And I think we were all kind of nervous going into Rockingham. Is it going to race well? Is it, the new repave? Everybody's pretty cautious about that. And overall, it looked exactly like the Rockingham I think we all kind of remember, other than it eating tires for the most part. And then you have the disqualification that comes 3 hours after the race, which threw me for a loop on Saturday. And I was really happy I held off on recording until Sunday morning, because that would have been a whole different reshoot and everything like that. But yeah, very excited for the past weekend there, and has me excited to go back. And I kind of talked about it on my channel, where I was like, maybe this just remains an Xfinity and Truck weekend and kind of is like, a big race for them, like put all the focus on them for the weekend versus having the Cup Series there.
I'm curious, Matt, for our listeners who might not be so familiar with your channel. Number one, how did you get started? And then what does a weekend look like for you? Because you just mentioned, the potential of having to shoot an episode and then having to reshoot because news comes in. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I got started just kind of doing this coming out of the pandemic. I think for a lot of us, like, motorsports is a pretty niche community, and like I don't have a ton of friends that are into it, and kind of just wanted to get my takes off for the most part there, and that just resulted in me posting on TikTok and then on YouTube here, and it's kind of grown and taken on a life of its own here. But a weekend for me, if I'm not at the track, I'm at home, and I typically watch all the races as they're happening, and I take notes. I've got this really long running doc on my computer of just notes from every race. And then afterwards, I kind of like digest it, usually take the dog for a walk, get my ideas together, and then come back and record that video. And like Saturday, I had some other things going on after the race. So yeah, I was like, I'll just record on Sunday morning. Worked out perfect for me there. But typically on Sundays, it's watch the race, kind of recap it, get some thoughts from some of my friends, and then sit down and start recording.
It's interesting. We were talking earlier about the Hall of Fame ballot, and Doug mentioned that Humpy Wheeler used to say, look, you only have room for about 5 superstars. If you have more, they're just stars on something like that. When it comes to making videos, and let's just talk about some of the biggest names in our sport, who gets the biggest reactions from what you post? What drivers, I guess, flip the switch for people?
Yeah, it's the exact people that you would always expect. Joey Logano gets a big time reaction out of people. Denny Hamlin always gets a big time reaction out of people. Bubba Wallace gets a reaction as well. And then if you talk bad about Chase Elliott, you're going to get all the Chase Elliott fans coming after you, like Taylor Swift fans. So you kind of know which strings to pluck if you want to get some views there.
So what would Chase Elliott fans be called if Taylor Swift fans are Swifties?
Oh man,
Chasies.
Yeah,
I think we should work that one. Workshop that some more.
Maybe I should have held that one just for a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We're heading down to Talladega this weekend, Matt. I got to think that as a content provider, that's like a cornucopia of information getting ready to head your way.
Yeah, Talladega is always one of those ones that you circle on the calendar and you're like, there's going to be something to talk about coming out of this, whether the race is good or bad. Because if the race is good, that's great. We got a lot of things to talk about. If the race is bad, people are going to be fired up about that as well. So it's also going to give us a lot to talk about, especially with the fuel saving and everything that's likely going to happen down there. And then you throw Cletus McFarland in on Saturday in that ARCA race as well. And yeah, it's a big time content weekend coming up for us.
It's interesting when you talk about Cletus. He's obviously a huge, YouTube star in his own right. And you talk about having like instantaneous feedback from your fans. What is that like when you're doing, I mean, because you're recording these, are you putting them up live? Are you having people in your comment section comment? How do you handle that in the moment?
Yeah, so I record, and then as soon as I'm done, like, it's getting uploaded. And after every race, like on TikTok and even on YouTube, I started to do it as well. I kind of just give it a score, like kind of the Jeff Gluck, was it a good race poll? I try to give it a score there, and man, do people get upset if your score does not match what they think about a race. And typically, like, I'm going to be hard pressed to give a race like a really bad score, because there's always something I can usually find to come out of it. And if we like just talk about Bristol, I gave Bristol like I think a 47, and people were like, this was not even above an 18. I'm like, all right, well, that's your scale. That's not my scale here. But yeah, the comment section's always fun. I appreciate it. Kind of built a pretty good community out of it. And then of course you have your outliers that are, the bad eggs, but overall everybody's been, pretty supportive.
All right. So now I'm curious then. So let's just say we look at Talladega. Great possibility that a driver who might not even fall on the radar of making the playoffs week in, week out performance base. I won't even name names. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but let's say one of those drivers wins, an unlikely playoffs contender now. What kind of score does a race like that get versus if we have Chase Elliott and Joey Logano nose to nose at the line?
That's a good question, because I always maintain that a good finish doesn't make up for a bad race, and a bad finish doesn't make a good race bad. So a random winner, to me, while I'll enjoy it, it's not going to affect the score too much, because I'm going to take the all 188 or more laps into account there. It definitely is going to give it a bump up. Say like a Zane Smith or somebody wins a race, like that's a cool story. That's going to be fun to talk about. If Parker Retzlaff would have won Summer Daytona last year, that would have been a really a cool story to have, especially because he wouldn't have affected the playoff, bracket at that point either. But yeah, I would say it's not going to bump it up too much, but it's going to give it a point or two.
All right, we saw today the new nominees for the NASCAR Hall of Fame as we wrap up our time with Matt here from Brake Hard. Kurt Busch made the list. Does he get voted in next time?
Yes. Yeah, I was looking through it this morning, and I think you have to, right? Cup Series champion, Daytona 500 winner. Does he have 30 race wins at this point? I can't remember off the top of my head. Either way, yeah, he does. Okay, so yeah, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer when you look at the other people that are on there as well.
Good deal. Well, Matt, thanks for joining us. Keep providing content and tell people how they can follow along with you on whatever social media platform they would like.
Definitely. You can follow me on TikTok at Brake Hard, YouTube Brake Hard as well, and Twitter, Facebook at Brake Hard Blog, and Instagram.
All right, Matt. Thanks a bunch. Matt from Brake Hard. Check him out. Has some really quality content. Coming up, a little green flag, black flag action.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. 800-433-3082. That's 800-433-3082.
I'm Denny Hamlin, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Whether it's skating around the racetrack on a set of rollerblades or turning laps in a Legends car, join JC Fickenshire on JC's Garage.
All it takes is one win, and that one win can completely clear the driver's mind. I could even see it happening if Todd Gilliland wins a race, or Noah Gragson wins a race, Zane Smith wins a race. These guys are guys who are just searching for one win, one chance.
JC's Garage, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Hey,
it's Charlie and Debbie, along with NASCAR legend Kyle Petty, inviting you to join us for Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown.
Each week, we'll put it in reverse and take a trip down memory lane, looking back at that week's top 20 country songs from years past.
We'll dive into what made those songs and artists move the needle, what pop culture trends made those years unique.
And you'll get to hear me tell stories only I can tell.
So don't miss Kyle Petty's Back Then Again Country Countdown right here each week.
Welcome back to Fast Talk, PRN, Brad Gilley, Alexis Erickson. I'm Doug Rice. I'm still thrilled, and I'm showing bias here, and I don't care that Humpy Wheeler is on the NASCAR Hall of Fame ballot for the Landmark Award. All the names on there are deserving, and I get it, but he holds a special place in my heart, working for him and around him and the complexity he brought to the game. I'm surprised it took this long, Alexis, for his name to get on the ballot.
I am too. But we talked about it, in the break. They've really pared it down quite a bit from what it was. And so the spots now that are available to add new names are few and far between. So it takes a little bit longer. But I am also very glad that he's on the ballot. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in first ballot.
I know one vote that he's getting.
Yep.
Yeah, right now. Okay, so Brad Gilley, I think, is going to chime in on that and probably add to that. Brad, can we talk about your new status right now?
Sure. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So all of the media outlets get a member on the voting panel. It's been you ever since we've started voting in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And now that you're retired, then they graciously offered that spot to me, which I'm pretty happy about.
Awesome.
But the better part of it is, Doug, you've been voting since the beginning, and you continue as a legacy member. So,
what is that line in Animal House? My brother's a legacy, and they usually get in.
But to me, that's like a compliment, though. I mean, that is like, Doug has been around this sport, for your entire life. I mean, if anyone can even speak to people throughout the entirety of the ballot, from the Landmark to the Pioneer to the Modern Era, you've seen and been a part of so much of this. You need to be voting.
Thank you, Brad. I really appreciate that sincerely. Having been on this, there was a time that I was one of the younger people that was in there voting and one of the newer people, and I heard all of the older folks talking about their contemporaries, but they could speak to them with some level of expertise. Now I'm in that position. At age 70, I've seen a lot and can address a lot of people that were in the prime of their career while I was covering it. And it's kind of neat. It's you will enjoy the process. It is one of the coolest things to be in that room when they start chewing up people. And I mean that in the nicest way. There's almost never anything negative said about somebody.
I find it interesting when you come back, and you obviously there is a, what happens in that room kind of stays in that room. You give a little bit of specifics about what happened, but when you talk about the process of how you basically, it's an open forum, and you can get up and stand up and talk about anybody you want to talk about and why you think they should be in or not be in, vice versa. And I just think that, when you're not a part of it, being able to understand kind of how it works is pretty neat.
And it is cool in the sense that sometimes I've walked out of that room before they make the announcement, and I know exactly by the conversation how the vote went. Other times I have missed it entirely because my inner voice wasn't hearing me well. But, they did a good job. Glad Humpy's on there. Glad Kurt Busch finally got on there because he's eligible now, and I think he will be a first-time ballot Hall of Famer. Let's do this.
It's time for another edition of Green Flag, Black Flag. Kind of a segment of the show that belongs in its own Hall of Fame that exists only in its own mind. All right, going to read some statements carefully prepared for our panel here. They will mull these over, and if they agree with the statement, it gets a green flag. If they disagree, it gets a black flag. If they are all in unison and harmony. Okay. Here we go. Going to start with Alexis Erickson today. Talladega will produce a first-time winner this coming weekend.
I'm going to go black flag. I know that's one of the racetracks where you think about that happening all the time, but for some reason, I'm thinking Ryan Blaney gets it done this weekend.
All right, Brad Gilley.
I'm going Black Flag. Although there are probably more non-winners, people who have not yet won a cup race in the field this weekend than there has been in a while. Nah, this is going to go to a regular.
Doug Rice, you're good at this.
Black Flag. I think it's going to be Ross Chastain or Bubba Wallace.
All right. All right. Brad Gilley, we go to you on this. Team Penske will win 4 or fewer races this season.
Ooh, I will go Black Flag. It's not time for them to hit, well, it probably is time for them to hit their stride, but 4 or fewer.
Do you count Josh Berry as a Penske win?
I do not. If he says Team Penske, if he said the Penske race shop, then I would definitely go Black Flag because Josh Berry's already won. But I'm thinking Penske proper, and that's Joey, Ryan, and Cindric.
All right, Doug.
More than 4.
Give me that one more time.
Team Penske will win 4 or fewer races this season.
Black Flag. They're going to win some races, but I think getting to 4 now that you already checked 9 off the box, it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
right.
I'm going to say Black Flag as well. I think they're the type of team that might come on a little bit later than other teams, but once they do, watch out.
All right. Doug, we'll start with you on this one. The big one at Talladega will happen in Stage 1.
Black Flag. They behaved themselves in Stage 1 and 2. Stage 3, you could get a couple of big ones.
It has happened, I think. Alexis.
Yeah, I'm going to say Black Flag as well. I think these Cup guys are so experienced that they know, when to go full throttle, especially when you're talking about fuel savings and all that. I think that might play into it. And I don't think we're going to see much carnage until they get the okay to go full throttle.
All right, Brad?
I have to buck the trend just because.
Oh.
So I'll say green flag, but this will be my reasoning. They've been off for a week. They're anxious. They're antsy. They're ready to go and run into each other.
Or so we hope.
Very, very good. Okay. Alexis, we go back to you for the final one today. The April showers that have followed Brad Keselowski will eventually bring him some May flowers.
Yeah, I'd love to say green flag, but at this moment, it's I've got to go Black Flag. I mean, I like Brad. I like where that team RFK has been able to get since he went over there. But when you look at specifically just this season, it has been dismal for him and that team. And so he needs, I think, more than just April showers. He needs a whole heck of a lot more.
All right, Brad Gilley.
I would say, now how is it phrased again? I just want to make sure I get it right.
It says that the April showers that had followed Brad Keselowski will eventually bring him some May flowers. In other words,
Black
things
flag.
are going to blossom.
Black flag. Not ready to happen yet. And I know everyone's going, boy, but Brad can win Talladega. So can half the field.
Yeah.
Doug, does he win in May?
Talladaga's a thin wire to cast your hopes on. Black Flag. No, they're not bringing fast cars to the racetrack, and that's a prescription for a bad day.
All right, awful lot of black flags waving today here. All right, Doug Rice, it's up to you.
All right, well, we'll try to bring some lightness to the show here when we come right back.
From fueling NASCAR champions on the track for over 20 years to innovating 94 octane, the highest octane on the market. Performance is what Sunoco does. All Sunoco fuel at the pump meets the same top-tier standards as the fuel used in NASCAR. From the track to your tank, you can trust Sunoco to help your vehicle perform at its peak.
Whether your engine runs daily or only when you need it, Z-Max Micro Lubricant is the force you need against carbon buildup that can damage your engine. Combustion causes carbon and other harmful deposits to build up in your engine, fuel system, and transmission. And carbon is like sandpaper rubbing against your engine's internal parts. You don't want that. You want Z-Max Micro Lubricant. It soaks into metal and keeps your vehicle running at peak performance. Find out more at zmax.com or visit us on Facebook and Twitter. Protect your engine to the max with Z-Max.
I'm Alex Bowman, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, this is Brett McMillan. If you want a show with no limits on opinions, join us each week for the Pit Reporters.
It proves that these guys are of the elite motorsports level. Being able to win the way that he did, I think means even more, that there weren't any fenders being put to anybody. And for those guys to show what they can do, to race cleanly, on a road course, they've certainly proved what they can do.
We're starting to see the top competitors become top road course racers.
Join us each week for the Pit Reporters.
It's not about the cars, the speed, the action. It's not about the party or the long weekend. It's about them, the ones that gave everything. This Memorial Day weekend, we honor the fallen at America's Home for Racing.
The 66th running of the Coca-Cola 600.
It's amazing on a weekend when the NASCAR Cup Series takes the day off that we have all this content to talk about. It's been a fun show, Alexis.
It has been. It's been a very fun show.
And Brad, I'm glad that we got the Rockingham thing done, and I know we're kind of plowing the same ground here. I was tickled with the way that the folks there handled it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me. Again, the racetrack does not control what happens on the racetrack. In fact, yeah, we talk about racetracks evolve and they change over time a little bit, but ultimately they don't change. The cars change, different things change like that. But it's what you do with the community, what you do when you welcome the fans there. You offer the amenities, you offer all the conveniences like the Amtrak from Raleigh coming in. The fact that Rockingham and Richmond County, that part of North Carolina, has NASCAR racing back. This is a heart of NASCAR country, part of the state of North Carolina, and it is so cool to see that everyone walked away from there with a smile on their face. Whether your driver won or lost, you had a smile because racing was back at the Rock.
Absolute win. Let's transition to this.
One last thing.
What you got, Alexis Erickson?
Well, I typically don't get on a soapbox too often, but I'm going to a little bit today to talk about off weekends in NASCAR. This year, 2025, we have one off weekend. It's come and gone. It was this past weekend, and it wasn't even a really full off weekend because we had other racing series on the track at Rockingham, which, that's great. But I feel like when you talk about what these teams endure week in and week out for 38 weeks, specifically talking about the Cup Series, because the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series do get multiple off weekends, there should be more than one Cup off weekend. 2, please. 3, maybe, but more than one. The drivers, they have creature comforts, they have private jets and all of these things, but the crews and the team members that work day in and day out to make these cars go fast and to put on a show for all of us to watch and enjoy, I personally think you need more than one off weekend.
All right, so a little more downtime from Alexis Erickson. Brad Gilley.
Going to the guy who's 52 weeks a year.
Yeah.
But I'm kidding, Alexis. I hear what you're saying. 28 straight weeks in the season, by the way. 1985, Darrell Waltrip won the championship in a full season. That was only 28 races. And I promise you that one went more than 28 weeks with off weeks. This is mine. This is my PSA. It's that time of year. A lot of yard work and gardening and all of that. Kill the fire ants before you start sticking your hands in there and trying to pull all the weeds. I'm just saying, little personal experience this weekend. I wish I wouldn't have dove in head first or hands first in that one. But great opportunity to make your yard look nice. And guess what? We have a lot of great sponsors in our sport of NASCAR that can help you do that.
Is there any video of you diving into the fire ants?
I was going to say, is there like a...
There would have been some
entertainment.
I had one.
Something?
I had ant bites like on the back of my neck.
Ouch.
I mean, oh, yeah.
Fire
it was
ants are
bad.
the worst.
Yeah.
If there was video, it would sound like this. If we played it back, beep, 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 beep. So.
All right, well, glad you survived your gardening. That's supposed to be relaxing and fulfilling, but not if you throw in a recipe of fire ants.
Those
It's
darn pests.
Not a good thing. All right, thanks a lot to everybody that made this show possible. The folks behind the glass, David Stiles and Kemp Bernhardt. We're all in here working on a day when the rest of the building is closed. Hope you appreciate that. Alexis Erickson, she's ready to dash home to see 3.5-year-old Ollie. Brad Gillies down in Texas. I'm Doug Rice. Thanks a lot for tuning in and catching the show. Congrats to Kurt Busch and Randy LaJoy and Humpy Wheeler for all being on the NASCAR Hall of Fame ballot. We'll be back next week with a whole bunch more Fast Talk.
Fast Talk was presented by Toyota. For the latest Toyota Gazoo racing information, visit tgrna.com. And by Sunoco. From NASCAR to your car, Sunoco Fuel helps your car reach peak performance. This is PRN, the Performance Racing Network.